We are in the middle part now of our summer holidays, and I'm sure we've been using the opportunity to sort of relax, take a foot off the accelerator, I don't know why you're laughing, and to relax, perhaps to go and explore different parts, either of this country or perhaps abroad. And when you do go on holidays, I'm sure one of the things you may find yourselves doing is to go into different churches or cathedrals and things and have a little mooch around and have a little look. And of course, it's quite often something, particularly in this country, where you've got to pay to get in, haven't you? While the continent is sort of free, sort of you go in. And of course, the Catholics got it right. You can come in for free, but you've got to pay to get out. So just to warn you now for later on, you can't come in here for free. And one of the things you usually get as you sort of go into these big churches or big cathedrals is, as you go in, you have the opportunity of picking up like a map of the church building, taking you to all of the different places of interest around the place. So if you went to Canterbury Cathedral, perhaps you'll go around, and one of the key places of interest is the place of martyrdom of St. Thomas Becket. Or if you go to Westminster Abbey, have a little mooch around. There's so much different parts of it to see, including the shrine at the top. So there's lots to explore. You may know that the main part of a church building, so the bit that you're in now, sitting in, is called the nave. And what's interesting about the word nave is that the root of the word is the same root word as navy and the word navigate. Do you notice there's a nautical theme there going on? And quite often as you look up into particularly older church buildings, look up to the roof. So you'll go to the older part of Our Lady's over the way. So you sort of get it a bit here. But if you go to Cardiff Cathedral in town by Marks and Spencer's, you'll get it. What you'll notice is that quite often you'll see the beams on display, and they're shaped like an upside-down hull of a ship. Have you noticed that? Again, a nautical theme. And this nautical theme is not accidental. It's something which is quite purposeful. And it helps us to unpack something significant about our understanding of church. The nautical parallels that we see and that we witness to and that we describe things as shows us how the boat is symbolic of the church. How the boat is symbolic of the church. And in our gospel today, the church is represented by that boat which the disciples were in. And we may find ourselves being flung around by the storms and the high seas of life. And we can see this played out, can't we? Not just as individuals like Peter, but also quite often we see ourselves in the mix of the tempest going on in the church sense as well. We only have to look back at history, both ancient history and modern history, to sort of explore that. The storms of life, the headwind, which so often catches us in such a way as to really hold us back from being able to advance in the spiritual life, can become something in our lives which is totally overwhelming, something which we find hard to be able to deal with. And while we may have faith, indeed a seemingly strong faith, as Peter does, we can find ourselves like Peter, that the niggles of doubt which the tempest and the storm causes and that headwind that battles us causes can really make us sink beneath the surface. How many people in our own community, I wonder, have fallen away from the church due to the overwhelming tempests and storms of life? what I find fascinating is the interaction between Peter and Jesus in this scene. And this is a gospel which is quite important to me in my own journey. It was a gospel that travelled with me and helped me journey in that last part of seminary life and that movement and that transition into priesthood. And it's that image I have of Jesus bending right down, of not just sort of going up, pull yourself together, but Jesus actually bends down and goes into the water, grabs Peter and pulls him up. And that's such a powerful image, I think, for me. There's an image online, which I'll put onto the Facebook and the parish website later on, of this very scene of Jesus sort of leaning down to pull him up. But the picture is from the perspective of Peter. So Peter's there underneath looking up. And it's quite evocative. We see Peter totally overwhelmed by what's going on. I think it's such a powerful moment in the gospel. With this beautifully evocative image, we put ourselves in Peter's place, showing us the truth that with Jesus' help, we can weather and overcome any storm, any tempest, no matter how big this storm is, no matter how destructive the storms and the tempests appear in our own lives. Pope Francis movingly speaks of this gospel, and he says how we need the outstretched hand of the Lord to draw us out from evil. In such wonderful words. And so Jesus calls to us, as he did those disciples, and says to us, "Courage, it is I, do not be afraid." This is such a big moment in our lives, isn't it, to be able to hear that. All that we have to do is not to be afraid to cry out from the heart of our tempests, the heart of the storms in our lives, and to say, "Lord, save me." And with confidence to be able just to reach up, because we know that Jesus will do the rest, will bend down, will pull us up. And what's more, we get that next step, we get that embrace. Jesus put out his hand at once and held him. This is such a beautiful moment in the incident. Jesus holds Peter. To be held by Jesus is the intimacy which begins to disband all of the fear which has caused Peter to sink in the first place. It's this intimacy, this to be held by Jesus, enables a reconciliation moment to take place, a restoration of faith. So let us bring to the Lord today our own tempests, the storms of our own lives that we find ourselves in. Perhaps a tempest in our lives which seems totally overwhelming at this moment. Let us have the strength of faith, like Peter, to be able to reach up, to reach out, and to cry out to Jesus with all conviction and say, "Lord, save me." Amen.